LiveTree is a crowdsourcing company, and they have a few new products that are going to help bring together content producers, fans, and influencers to create media communities. I interviewed Ashley from their team to give us more detail. All right, so welcome, Ashley. And first of all, the obvious question: could you give us a little, the kind of the elevator pitch about what LiveTree is and how it can be used by people?
Sure. So LiveTree is really an evolution of an existing revenue generating business, which we started 2 years ago. And we specialized in crowdfunding for film, TV, and content. We started looking at models for crowdfunding, Kickstarter, Indiegogo. These companies force the project creator to do all the marketing themselves. So we started thinking about what is the best way to market, what's the best way to promote a project. And we believe that the best way to promote is actually something that we do every day, mouth recommendation. So just think about the last time you listened to a friend who told you about a film or a TV project. That's the best way to get information and to promote. So we set up a crowdfunding platform whereabouts the creator could allocate a percentage of what they raised to people who directly influenced and got people to back the project itself. So that's organizations and influencers like yourself, people who could attract interest into the project. So instead of advertising spend going to the likes of the social networks like Facebook and Google, it went to the people that actually helped the project thrive and grow. And it was really about creating an ecosystem around the project itself. So we operated that. We started about 2 years ago from zero, built a brand. We've captured about 5% of the UK market share. And about, I guess 7-8 months ago, we started looking at some of the challenges that these creators have once they've got funded. And the real big challenge that they have is getting it onto screen. So the whole Adept platform is really about helping not just emerging content makers, but professional filmmakers get onto screen and through a completely new channel. So we really have to think about the evolution of content and how we got to today. So we think about, when I don't know how old you are, but when I was quite young, we had VHSs. We would go down to Blockbuster Video. I don't know if that rings a bell, but those days were have moved on, and we're now in the world of what's called video on demand. So that's Netflix, a subscription-based model, and you're seeing ABC Go, BBC iPlayer, a lot of players moving into that space, and that's where TV is going. Likewise, for the traditional channels like broadcasters, getting onto screen meant that you would go down to Cannes or one of the film festivals, have to rub shoulders with the right people to get your content out there, right? And so how do we compete against the likes of Netflix? How do we introduce a model that creates efficiency so the industry comes to us? And that's how we started thinking about Adept as being a distribution channel that could not only help emerging film, TV, and content makers, but also help professionals. And we do that by introducing efficiencies. So through the distribution process, the traditional distribution process, you would go to MIPCOM or Cannes, as I said, you'd negotiate, and that negotiation process would take 6 months to a year to get your content out there. And if you look at viewing numbers, there's about 176 films actually released into cinemas. In the UK is about only 600 in the US. And that's because they're really driven by marketing. It's throw a bunch of marketing cash into a project and then have the same cookie cutter approach to all of the films afterwards. So if we could reduce the contract period down, if we could make efficiencies there, distributors would have access to more sales. They'd be able to earn more money, and likewise, the content creators could get into those channels as well. So when we think about Netflix and some of the challenges there, what we're seeing is these centralized systems, much like Facebook, they produce a personalized content feed for you. So that personalized content feed, next time you switch on Netflix, you might see that. That's actually built up from a series of data points based on your viewing habits, right? And they use algorithms to feed content to you. Now, that rating system, that scoring system isn't transparent. It doesn't even get shared with the content creators themselves. And it gets worse. What they're doing is actually buying the digital rights, the IP behind it, so that the content is locked in there permanently. So it never gets to cinema, and the content creators can't realize the true value of it. So how do we create a system that's going to bridge from the likes of YouTube all the way through to TV? And we started thinking about an aggregation service that would allow you to publish, go through to YouTube, go through to Vimeo if those are the right distribution methods for you, build up your following, and then migrate over to what we've launched is what we're calling Blossom TV. Now, the innovation with Blossom TV is that it enables a pre-pay-to-view model. So it enables fans to actually start thinking about what do I want in the next episode? What themes do I want? And what actors do I want, right? So gamification of that process. So again, you can think about this as an evolution. So you have YouTube right now, which is an advertising video on demand service. You have Netflix, which is a subscription video on demand service. And what we're introducing is a pre-pay to view model. So that's the way I see that as an intermediary to build your community around you. Once you have that community, you then have more power to go and negotiate better contracts to get you into TV and through to into the cinemas. So, in a nutshell, let me just say it concisely. The main challenge that we're trying to solve is distribution, providing transparent distribution that empowers consumers and also gives further opportunities to content creators. And the funding aspects and the creation aspects fit behind that in order to build that community.
Yeah, that sounds like there's a lot going on there. I guess the first question I have is, from a technical perspective, what's going on behind the scenes to make this whole system transparent?
Yeah, so the reason that we chose the blockchain was really for three reasons. So the first reason is that it turns out to be very good at managing digital rights. So digital rights management currently is managed through centralized databases, one provided by Google, which is called Widevine. Microsoft has Fairplay, and so on. So what the blockchain offers is a transparent ledger where you can, and the system that we're proposing is built on an open source standard called Cola IP, which enables you to not only transfer between those different formats, but also, because it's built on the blockchain, enables you to tie transactions to it. And because you can now tie transactions to it, we're taking crowdfunding to the next level. So we currently have reward-based crowdfunding, which is you crowdfund and you get a DVD back, or you get an invite to the red carpet. It's really a donation type model, really, when you think about it. With the advent of blockchain, and by using the blockchain digital rights management, we can tie transactions to it, which will enable you to own the actual intellectual property. And because of the distribution part of it, Blossom TV, and going through to YouTube and through to the main distributors, you can also earn a share of the future profits from that content. So it's a way to utilize the capabilities of the blockchain to create efficiencies that will attract not only current crowdfunding film, TV, and content market, which is currently $1 billion globally, but the traditional film and TV content makers.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. So, yeah, the follow-up question to that would be, traditionally in the crowdfunding world, one thing I like is that you guys have kind of been in this game for a while. You've been around for 2 years, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the crowdfunding world, people tend to have some problems with the regulatory issues, and then of course, there's a whole host of new regulatory issues in the blockchain world, and you're combining the two. What kind of hurdles do you still have to jump for that?
Yeah, I mean, we welcome regulation. I think the regulation that has occurred in the US, especially with ICOs, in terms of raising the cap for ICOs and putting it under the umbrella of crowdfunding, I think is a step forward. Regulation within the space is obviously still very much at an early stage. However, regulation is there for a reason. It's there to encapsulate our previous learnings. And I mean, we are in favor of regulation as long as it doesn't start restricting you to going through too much red tape, right? I mean, some regulation is there to protect the top 1% and introduce barriers. Some of the things around sophisticated investors and, various other regulations. And some regulation is there to purely serve as a scapegoat for some of the bad practices that are going on right now. So it's an evolving debate at the moment, I would say. And having worked in the regulatory space within finance, I can see the positives and the negatives. But overall, I think there is a wide. I'm a firm believer in bringing in regulation as long as it's measured.
All right. Now we're kind of running short on time, but I wanted to get back to one thing that you said earlier that I thought sounded really, really kind of breakthrough and interesting. It was the concept of people, the people watching these shows giving feedback about what they would like to see in future shows. Yeah. Is that kind of it kind of creates a whole new interactive experience. Is that really just at the conceptual level right now, or do you have any?
No, so we already have a system in place, right? This is building on top of our learnings from current LiveTree model. So when people share the content, they're actually earning a percentage of what gets raised. So if you take that to another level, where we're sharing, but you're earning seed, and every time you're sharing, you're actually taking some of that advertising money away and creating value for seed and helping grow the community. The way that we've have it envisaged is sort of like a fantasy football type arrangement, where you can start scoring, and that again increases engagement, and that voting process, which is key, right? That's the transparency part, because that's showing, that's driving what's going to get made, and that's going to be the impetus to give us the ability to challenge the major players out there who have huge sums of money. And we have to be pragmatic in our approach, in that we're not unrealistic in the sense that these channels are just going to stop. They're just going to switch off as soon as we launch this platform. We have to take those considerations into place and integrate with them, and integrate with the current industry to create win-wins on both sides, in order to foster the movement to a new market.